The night it began, Earth changed forever. It was an ordinary evening. Children were playing cricket in the streets, shopkeepers were closing their stores, and families were settling down for dinner. The air was calm, the sky full of stars. Then, without warning, the stars began to vanish. At first, people thought it was a storm. Dark shapes swallowed the heavens, blotting out the moonlight. But these were not clouds. They moved too quickly, too perfectly, in sharp formation. Soon, the truth became impossible to deny. The skies of Earth were filled with ships, massive metallic giants that stretched across the horizon, alien armadas. In Islamabad, Ariz, a young officer, stood frozen at his post. His radio cracked with static, commanders shouting orders, civilians screaming in the background. He raised his eyes to the heavens and saw them clearly, towering vessels, their hulls glowing with pale blue light, like something carved from another world. Each ship was larger than the tallest skyscraper. Their shadows stretched across entire neighborhoods. People screamed and ran through the streets. Cars collided. Mothers clutched their children, dragging them into homes and basements. And yet, the ships did not attack. Not a single shot was fired. In New York, Tokyo, Cairo, London, everywhere, the same sight unfolded. Silence in the skies, ships floating like predators circling their prey, waiting for the right moment. That silence was more terrifying than any explosion. Ariz could hear the trembling breaths of the soldiers beside him. Even the air felt heavy, filled with the humming vibration of engines that belonged to no human design. The sound rattled inside his chest, slow and steady, like the heartbeat of a monster. Still, no strike came. By midnight, governments around the world declared a state of emergency. Borders meant nothing anymore. The enemy was above them all. News channels showed the same haunting image: black skies, silver ships, crowds running in fear. Experts argued on live broadcasts. Some believed the aliens came for peace. Others warned of total destruction. But ordinary people knew the truth. One look into that dark sky was enough. These ships had not come in peace. Hours passed. The alien armadas remained motionless. Cities turned into ghost towns. Streets were abandoned, save for the distant wail of sirens and the cries of those who had nowhere to run. Inside a military bunker, Ariz listened as generals argued. "We must prepare our missiles," one said. "We must open communication," another argued. "If we fire first, we are doomed. If we wait too long, we are finished." Their words meant nothing against the silence of the sky. And then, just before dawn, something strange happened. Across the world, radar screens lit up with a new signal. A message pulsed through radio waves, so faint it almost seemed like static. Scientists scrambled to decode it. The sound repeated again and again, bouncing from one frequency to another, like someone whispering across the stars. At first, no one could understand. Then fragments of the signal were translated into patterns. It wasn't coming from the alien fleet. It was coming from Earth. Ariz leaned closer to the radio, listening to the static, his skin prickling. Someone, somewhere on Earth, was sending a message to the invaders. But who? And why? The alien ships remained still, as if waiting for the signal to finish. As if they were listening. The generals looked at one another in confusion, fear thick in the air. No government admitted to sending it. No scientist could explain it. It was a mystery born from Earth itself. Outside, the dawn finally broke. The first rays of sunlight painted the massive alien hulls in gold, making them look even more unreal. Giants from a nightmare wrapped in morning light. Ariz felt a chill crawl through him. He realized something important. The aliens had not fired because they were waiting, but waiting for what? The answer, he feared, was hidden in that strange signal. The signal that no human claimed to send, yet pulsed across the world like a heartbeat. That night marked the beginning of humanity's darkest chapter. A war had not yet started, but already Earth felt conquered. And deep within that silence, the true terror was not just the alien fleet above, it was the possibility that Earth itself carried a secret, one the aliens had come to claim. Audience message. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the aliens came for war or for something hidden on Earth? The alien armadas did not fire. They just hovered. Giant black ships blocked the skies above Earth's greatest cities: London, Islamabad, New York, Tokyo, Cairo. Their shadows stretched across buildings like giant wounds in the sky. Days turned into nights under those shadows, and nights felt longer, heavier, as if time itself had stopped. On the ground, fear spread faster than fire. Streets once alive with cars and laughter were now empty, abandoned. Shop doors hung open. Windows were boarded shut. Radios buzzed with broken messages. The world held its breath, waiting for something, waiting for the first attack that never came. Children cried in underground shelters, clinging to their mothers. Soldiers stood at checkpoints, hands trembling on their rifles, knowing those rifles were useless against ships that could crush entire nations in seconds. The silence was worse than an attack. At least with war there was sound, movement, a chance to fight back. But this was waiting for death, and no one knew when it would come. In Islamabad, the young soldier from Part 1, Aries, stood on the rooftop of a deserted building. He looked up at the massive alien ship that floated silently above the clouds. Its surface shimmered like dark glass, reflecting the dying city lights. It made no sound. No engines, no movement, only a low hum that rattled through the air like a heartbeat too big for human ears. Ares whispered to himself, "Why are they not attacking?" But no answer came. Governments around the world tried to send messages to the aliens. No response. Satellites tried to scan their ships. Nothing. Scientists worked day and night, searching for a weakness. Nothing. The world grew restless. People prayed. Some gave up hope. Then on the fifth night, something happened. Across every city, every radio, every screen, an alien broadcast suddenly cut through the silence. It began with a sound like static, like broken glass grinding against metal. Then came a voice. It was cold, emotionless, almost human, but not quite. One word. "Surrender," the voice echoed again, deeper this time. "Surrender." People froze where they stood. Families clutched each other tighter in the basements. Soldiers lowered their guns. It was not just a command. It was a promise. The broadcast continued across all frequencies, repeating that one word over and over: surrender, surrender, surrender. In New York, church bells rang by mistake when the broadcast hit the radio towers. In Tokyo, neon signs flickered with the alien word glowing across them. In Cairo, the desert winds carried the voice into empty streets. Ares sat frozen in Islamabad, his hands over his ears, but it didn't matter. The voice wasn't just sound. It felt like it was inside his head, like the aliens had reached into his very thoughts and left a mark there. "Why are they waiting?" he whispered again, sweat dripping down his forehead. "Why don't they just destroy us?" The answer came to him in a way he did not expect, because fear was stronger than fire. People began to argue. Should they surrender and survive as slaves, or resist and die within minutes? Streets filled with protests during the daytime, even under alien shadows. Some shouted, "Fight!" while others cried, "Save the children!" But the aliens remained silent after their one word. Their ships floated like judges above a guilty world. In the White House, in Parliament, in the halls of the United Nations, leaders sat with pale faces. Some suggested giving up. Others demanded resistance. But deep inside, all of them knew the truth. Humanity's weapons could not match this power. One scientist said in despair, "We have already lost. We just don't know it yet." And yet, hidden beneath the fear, a small fire began to burn. Humans were strange creatures. When faced with doom, some surrendered, but others became sharper, stronger, unpredictable. The aliens may have known human technology, but did they understand the human heart? That question remained buried under silence until a strange coded signal was detected late at night. A pulse coming not from space, but from Earth itself. No one knew who sent it. No government claimed it. No military admitted it. But it was there, a secret transmission hidden inside the alien frequency. It carried a message in old, forgotten code. A warning. A strategy. When Ariz first heard the signal crackle through the radio in his command post, his heart skipped a beat. He leaned closer, eyes wide, trying to decode the strange pulses. It was not a voice. It was not English. But it was human. And it meant only one thing. Someone, somewhere on Earth, was preparing a secret plan. The silence was breaking. Audience message. If you enjoyed this part of the story, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the aliens are waiting for something? Or are they already inside our minds? The signal changed everything. For weeks, the alien armadas had only hovered in silence. Humanity lived in terror, waiting for destruction. But the secret pulse, a coded transmission from somewhere on Earth, spread a new kind of fear. Not fear of the aliens, but fear of the unknown within. Who had sent it? And what did it mean? In Islamabad, Ariz sat inside a dimly lit command post. Radios buzzed, screens flickered, soldiers whispered nervously. The coded pulses repeated every hour, sharp and precise. Some scientists claimed it was a distress signal. Others believed it was a trap, maybe even a trick from the aliens. But one man disagreed. He was an old historian, Dr. Halim, with gray hair and eyes heavy from decades of secrets. He listened carefully to the signal, his face pale, his hands shaking. "This is not alien," he whispered. "This is ours. Something we buried long ago." Everyone turned to him, confused. Ariz leaned forward. "What do you mean, sir?" Dr. Halim looked around the room, his voice lowering. Many years ago, during the Cold War, the world's greatest minds worked on strange strategies. Plans not of weapons, but of survival. Most were destroyed, locked away in fear of their danger. But one remained. A hidden plan, so secret that even governments forgot it existed. Silence filled the room. Soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. "You mean a weapon?" Ariz asked. Halim shook his head slowly. "No, not a weapon. Something different. Something the aliens will never expect." For the first time since the armadas appeared, a spark of hope lit in the eyes of the soldiers. That night, Ariz and Dr. Halim traveled under curfew through the dead city. The streets were lifeless, lit only by broken lamps and the red glow of the alien ship high above the clouds. Every sound echoed too loudly, boots on the pavement, the wind rattling against shutters. The silence of the empty world was heavier than gunfire. Their destination was an old mountain range outside the city. Hidden deep inside was a forgotten bunker, sealed for decades. Rusted steel doors stood like the mouth of a giant beast, covered in dust, chained and locked. Ariz felt his chest tighten. "This is it?" "Yes," Halim said. His voice carried both fear and certainty. "Inside lies the silent strategy." It took hours to cut through the locks and chains. When the doors finally creaked open, a blast of cold, stale air rushed out, carrying the smell of stone, iron, and time itself. Flashlights cut through the darkness as they stepped inside. The bunker walls were lined with old maps, faded papers, and strange machines that hummed weakly even after all these years. At the center stood a massive steel table covered in files marked with a single word in red, "Confidential." Ariz picked up one of the files, his hands trembling. Inside were diagrams, codes, and strategies written in simple but chilling language. Dr. Halim read aloud, his voice almost a whisper. "Victory is not in power. Victory is in confusion. To win against greater force, one must become unpredictable." Ariz frowned. "Unpredictable? That's not a plan. That's madness." Halim's eyes hardened. "Madness is the only weapon humans have. The aliens know our weapons. They know our science, but they do not know our chaos." Hours passed as they uncovered the plan. It was unlike anything Ariz expected. No superweapons, no advanced technology, no hidden army. Instead, it was a strategy that used the very weakness of humanity: fear, mistakes, unpredictability, as a shield and a sword. The silent strategy depended on deception, sacrifice, and a kind of unity that looked like disorder. It demanded humans appear weaker than they were, more divided, more chaotic, while in secret, laying traps and creating confusion the aliens could not process. "Machines understand logic," Halim explained. but they cannot understand a soldier who charges into fire without reason. They cannot understand a child throwing stones at a giant. They cannot understand love, sacrifice, or madness. That is why this strategy exists. To turn our weakness into strength. Ares felt his heart pound. It was dangerous. It was desperate. But it was the only chance they had. Word of the silent strategy spread to hidden military leaders across the world. Some rejected it, calling it suicide. Others embraced it, saying there was no other way. For the first time, nations that had once been enemies spoke in secret unity. Humanity was standing on the edge of extinction, and only this strange, forgotten plan offered a path forward. Meanwhile, above Earth, the alien ships shifted for the first time. Their lights flickered. Their formation tightened. It was as if they had sensed something. The silence was ending. Back in the bunker, Ares stood beside Dr. Halim. He looked at the old maps, the coded strategies, the desperate words written decades ago by men who had feared this very moment. "So this is our weapon," Ares said softly. "Not bombs, not guns, not missiles, but our own chaos." Halim nodded, his face grim but determined. "Yes, and if we use it well, the armadas will fall." At that moment, a loud rumble shook the ground. Dust fell from the ceiling. The air itself seemed to tremble. Ares and Halim rushed outside. Above the mountains, the alien ship that had been silent for weeks was finally moving. Its shadow grew larger, its lights burning like fire across the night sky. The first step of the silent strategy had begun, whether humanity was ready or not. Audience message. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think chaos can really defeat an advanced alien armada? The next morning, Armin returned to the facility with a heavy heart. The secret he had uncovered kept burning in his mind like a hidden fire. He knew the government had erased the truth from history. But why? And what else were they hiding? The archive room was no longer safe. Armin had felt the shadow, the presence watching him. So instead, he decided to dig deeper into the restricted underground levels of the research facility. The elevator creaked as it descended, the red emergency light glowing dimly inside. He held his ID card tightly in his hand. His breathing echoed in the silence. Finally, the doors opened to a floor most employees had never seen. The hallway smelled of rust and dust, like something abandoned for years. The walls were lined with thick steel doors, each marked with faded warning signs. Top secret, authorized personnel only. Danger. Armin's footsteps echoed as he walked. The deeper he went, the colder the air became. He stopped in front of a door half hidden behind stacked crates. His heart pounded. The sign read, Project Genesis, decommissioned. With trembling hands, he swiped his ID. To his shock, the door unlocked with a slow metallic click. The room beyond was vast, lit only by flickering fluorescent lights. Dust floated in the air, glowing faintly. What Armin saw made his chest tighten. Rows of alien ship fragments were scattered across the floor. Twisted metal, strange glowing crystals, and broken weapons that no human could have built. But in the center of the room stood something more terrifying. Glass chambers filled with liquid. Inside them floated strange, half-decayed bodies. Armin's stomach turned. Their bodies were long, thin, with lifeless faces. Their eyes, even in death, seemed to stare at him. He whispered to himself, so it was true. They were here. He noticed a table covered with old journals and yellowed papers. Carefully, he opened one. The handwriting was rushed, uneven, as if written in fear. The experiments began after the first crash. We studied their weapons, their ships, their bodies. But nothing was more shocking than this discovery. They could not think like us. Armin flipped the page, his hands shaking. Aliens rely on rules, patterns, systems. They are predictable. Humans, however, break every pattern. We create chaos. We build tools from scraps. We turn failure into strength. This is what they fear. Another entry followed. We tested human adaptability against alien technology. Soldiers were locked inside simulations with nothing but broken machines. Every time they escaped. Every time they turned weakness into advantage. The aliens could not understand this. Their minds froze where ours created. Armin's pulse quickened. It was not weapons or strength that defeated the aliens. It was human creativity, the refusal to accept limits. But then, at the bottom of the page, one final line chilled him. Warning: if they return, they will not underestimate us again. The lights above flickered. The room groaned as if alive. Armand quickly packed the journals into his bag. But as he turned to leave, he froze. One of the glass chambers was empty. The liquid inside still dripped, fresh, as if something had broken out. The glass was cracked from inside. Armand's throat went dry. No, this can't be. Suddenly, he heard it. A faint sound, like claws dragging across metal. It echoed in the dark corners of the room. His chest tightened, fear squeezing every breath. He looked around, but the shadows seemed to move. Was he alone here? The sound grew louder. Step by step. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Armand backed toward the door, his heartbeat thunderous in his ears. He reached for the handle with shaking hands. Behind him, in the reflection of the glass chamber, he saw it. A tall, thin figure standing in the shadows. Its eyes glowed faintly, watching him. The door slammed shut. The lights went out. Darkness swallowed the room, and Armand realized the experiment was not over. The room was still dark. Armand pressed himself against the cold steel wall, his breath sharp and fast. Somewhere in the shadows, something moved. The faint scrape of claws against the floor made the silence unbearable. Then, as quickly as the lights had died, they flickered back on. The figure was gone. Only broken glass and dripping liquid remained. Armand's eyes darted across the room. Had he imagined it? Or had something truly escaped? He didn't wait to find out. He ran from the chamber, journals clutched tightly in his arms, and didn't stop until he reached the safety of his small apartment. That night, he laid the old journals on his desk. The words inside burned brighter than any nightmare. They didn't just describe battles, they explained why humans, against all odds, had won. One entry read, "Aliens fight with technology. Humans fight with imagination. When their guns fail, they invent new ones. When their walls fall, they build stronger ones from the rubble. They do not follow logic. They turn weakness into strength." Armand whispered to himself. That's it. That's the reason. Ingenuity. He flipped to another page. This one told the story of a forgotten soldier. A man trapped with his unit in a desert surrounded by alien ships. Their weapons were destroyed. Their radios broken. No hope left. Yet the soldier noticed the alien ships released heat stronger than the desert sun. He used broken mirrors from a crashed jeep, positioning them to reflect and multiply the heat back at the ships. Within hours, the ship's systems overheated. One by one, they fell from the sky. Armand leaned back, stunned. The soldier had no lasers, no rockets, no advanced tools, just scraps of glass and desperate courage. Another entry described a small village attacked by alien machines. The villagers had no soldiers, only farmers and hunters. Yet, they dug deep pits, covered them with wooden planks, and set fire to their fields. The machines chased them blindly into the traps, sinking and burning. Armand could almost hear the old commander's words echoing from the page. Aliens cannot understand this kind of thinking. They expect order. Humans thrive in chaos. He felt chills as he realized something deeper. It wasn't just clever tricks, it was human emotion driving ingenuity. Fear, love, desperation, hope, all pushed humans to create solutions no alien mind could predict. He turned to the last page of the journal. The ink was smeared, the handwriting shaky, as if written in great fear. We tested human ingenuity against alien prisoners. Every experiment proved the same truth. Humans think like no other race. Where aliens stop, humans begin. This is why they fear us. This is why they will return. Armand sat in silence. The ticking of the clock on his wall sounded louder with each second. He now understood the secret that had been buried for decades. It wasn't nuclear bombs or armies that scared alien civilizations. It was something far more dangerous, the human mind. But the thought gave him no comfort. Because if the aliens had truly learned this lesson in the past, then the next time they arrived, they would come prepared. The floorboards creaked suddenly. Armand's head shot up. He wasn't alone. Slowly, he turned toward the dark corner of his apartment. For a moment, it was empty. Then, in the faint glow of the streetlight outside, he saw movement, a shadow that didn't belong. He froze. His heart pounded. The journals on his desk rattled slightly as if touched by invisible hands. A whisper filled the room. Not human. Low. Distorted. Armin couldn't understand the words, but he knew what they meant. The experiments hadn't just revealed the past. They had awakened something in the present. The ingenuity that once saved humanity might now be tested again. Armin did not sleep that night. The journals lay open on his desk, their pages filled with secrets the world was never meant to know. Outside, the city slept under flickering streetlights, unaware that the universe had once trembled at the name of humanity. By morning, Armin made a choice. He could not keep this knowledge locked away. He uploaded fragments of the files onto a private network used by astronomers and independent researchers across the world. Within hours, the whispers began. Messages arrived from scientists in Europe, Asia, and South America. Some were shocked. Others were afraid. But one message stood out. It came from an observatory in Chile. The email was short, almost rushed. "We have detected alien transmissions. They speak of Earth. They warn others. Humans are unpredictable, dangerous. Stay away." Armin's blood ran cold. He quickly called the observatory. A tired voice answered. It belonged to Dr. Silva, a woman who had spent decades scanning the skies. "We have heard them for years," she whispered. "Not directed at us, but at each other. They do not call us weak. They call us a danger," Armin asked, his voice trembling. "Why? Why would they still fear us after so many years?" There was silence on the line. Then Dr. Silva said, "Because humans fight for reasons they cannot understand. For family, for hope, for love. No other race does this. To them, that is terrifying." Her words echoed in Armin's mind long after the call ended. That night, he studied more of the alien transmissions that had been recorded. The voices were cold, mechanical, but the message was always the same. Avoid Earth. Do not engage. The humans are not like us. They do not surrender. They do not stop. One mind can create a weapon from nothing. One child can destroy an army. Stay away! Armin felt a strange mix of pride and fear. Pride, because his species had once stood against impossible odds. Fear, because if the aliens still remembered, then they had never truly left. The following day, news leaked. A hacked satellite transmission was broadcast across the internet. The whole world heard it. A strange alien voice, distorted but clear enough to understand. "Warning to all colonies, do not provoke the humans. They will burn their own world before they bow. They are chaos made flesh." The world fell into panic. Some laughed it off as a hoax. Others locked their doors as if that could stop an invasion. Governments rushed to hide the truth, but it was too late. Humanity had heard the universe's opinion of them. Armin walked through the city, watching the fear spread like wildfire. People whispered in cafes. News channels replayed the message on loop, and children asked their parents why aliens were afraid of them. But the strangest thing was the silence that followed. No more alien signals, no more whispers. Just silence, heavy and unnatural, as if the galaxy itself was holding its breath. That night, as rain tapped against his window, Armin returned to the final journal he had stolen. The last page had a warning, one he had ignored until now. They fear us not only for what we are, they fear what we might become. Ingenuity has no limit. If they return, they will come not to fight, but to stop us from reaching them. Armin's hand trembled as he closed the journal. The aliens were not just afraid of humanity's past victories. They were afraid of its future. His phone buzzed. A new message flashed on the screen. No sender, no number. Just 3 words. "They are coming." Armin's chest tightened. He looked out at the dark city skyline, lightning flashing in the distance. For the first time, he realized the truth. The universe didn't just fear humans, it was preparing for them. The world was no longer the same. Ever since the alien transmission leaked, fear spread across every nation. Some people laughed at it, calling it a story made by hackers. But governments knew the truth. Satellites picked up unusual movements in deep space, fleets of ships changing their course. all pointing toward one small blue planet, Earth. Armin sat in his apartment, staring at the message on his phone. They are coming. His hands were cold, his throat dry. Who had sent it? And how did they know? Within hours, global news channels began showing strange images. Massive objects moving slowly across the stars. Some claimed they were comets. Others whispered the truth. Alien ships. In Washington, Moscow, Beijing, and every capital city, military forces prepared in silence. Fighter jets filled the skies, submarines vanished into the oceans, and missiles were moved into position. Yet no one spoke publicly. The government still pretended everything was normal, but Armin knew better. The silence was the loudest warning. He decided to meet Dr. Silva again, the astronomer who had first told him about the transmissions. Her observatory stood high in the Chilean mountains, far from the city lights. The journey was long, the roads dark, but he felt an invisible pull dragging him there. When he arrived, the air was thin and cold. The observatory dome opened like a giant eye staring at the sky. Inside, Dr. Silva sat hunched over glowing screens, her face pale. "They're closer now," she whispered without looking at him. "The fleets are slowing down. It's not random. They're watching us." Armin's chest tightened. "Do you think they're here to attack?" She shook her head. "Not yet. They're waiting, measuring, deciding." She turned to him, her eyes sharp. But they didn't come for peace. Not after all the warnings. Armin placed the journals on the desk. "Then we need to prepare. These journals say humans survived before, not with weapons, but with ingenuity. We need to remember that." Dr. Silva gave a tired smile. "Yes, but there's something worse." She pointed at a signal on the screen, a pulsing light in space. "This isn't just one fleet. There are more, watching from farther away, observing us like hunters circling prey." The room grew colder. Outside, thunder rolled across the mountains. Armin stepped closer to the screen. "So they all fear us. But why now? Why return after so many years?" Dr. Silva's voice lowered. "Because we're advancing too fast. Our technology grows every year. We've begun reaching for the stars. They fear what happens if we leave Earth." Her words struck him like a blade. The aliens weren't coming to invade Earth for resources. They were coming to contain humanity, to keep them from spreading into the galaxy. Suddenly, the observatory lights flickered. The computers buzzed with static. A deep hum filled the air, vibrating the glass windows. Armin's heart raced. Dr. Silva stared at the monitor. "No, they're here." On the screen, enormous shadows appeared, ships larger than cities. Their outlines glowed faintly as they drifted into the solar system. For a moment, silence fell. Then one of the speakers crackled to life. A distorted alien voice filled the room. "To the humans of Earth, we do not seek your land. We do not seek your lives. We seek to end your growth. You are dangerous. You must remain here." The voice ended. Static returned. Armin felt his knees weaken. His mind replayed the words from the journals. "They fear not what we are, but what we might become." The ships were not here to destroy humanity, they were here to cage it. As lightning split the sky outside, Armin clenched his fists. If they think they can lock us in, they've already forgotten what makes us human. Dr. Silva looked at him, fear and hope mixing in her eyes. "Then we must remind them." The hum outside grew louder. The night sky over the mountains lit up with strange lights, blue and red flashes moving silently, like storms from another world. The aliens had arrived, but the real battle had not yet begun. The skies above Earth were no longer dark. Strange lights moved silently, stretching across continents. People stood in the streets, staring upward with fear in their eyes. Children clung to their parents, asking questions no one could answer. The alien fleets hung in orbit, unmoving, like predators circling prey. The world waited for the first strike, but no attack came. In the Chilean observatory, Armin and Dr. Silva kept their eyes on the monitors. The alien voice had gone silent. Only static filled the air. Hours passed, and still the ships waited. Then at dawn, a new signal arrived. This time it wasn't broken or distorted. It was clear, cold, measured. Humans of Earth. You wonder why we fear you. We will tell you. Armand froze. His heart pounded as the voice continued. When we first came to your world, we had weapons beyond your imagination. We had power to burn cities in moments, yet we lost. Not because you were strong, but because you refused to accept defeat. You turned broken metal into traps. You turned fire into light. You turned fear into courage. We cannot understand this. The voice grew sharper, heavier. Other races build systems. They follow rules. They evolve slowly, predictably. But you are chaos. Your ingenuity has no limits. You are not bound by logic. That is why every alien race fears you. Armand's breath caught in his chest. The words were everything the journals had warned. The alien continued. We do not fear your weapons. We do not fear your armies. We fear your minds. Because one human with nothing can create something that defeats us all. You are the race that should not be crossed. Silence followed. For a moment, even the air seemed to stop moving. Dr. Silva whispered, They're confessing. But the message was not over. We come not to destroy, but to prevent. If you leave your world, if you spread into the stars, there will be no galaxy left untouched by your chaos. You will become the storm that consumes all. And so we will cage you here. Stay on Earth, do not rise. If you try, we will return in force. The voice ended. Armand felt his chest tighten with both anger and fear. The aliens had not come to conquer humanity's land or resources. They had come to chain its future, to lock it in place before it could rise higher. For hours, the world leaders argued, scientists debated, and people prayed. The alien fleets waited in silence above. Finally, as the sun set, the ships began to move. Slowly, silently, they drifted back into the stars, leaving only darkness behind. But they had left their warning. In the days that followed, the world was never the same. Governments no longer denied the truth. Humanity had not only been visited before, it was being watched, measured, and judged. The fear was real, but so was the pride. Armand stood once again at the observatory, staring at the night sky. Billions of stars burned brightly, each one a world beyond reach. For now, Dr. Silva stood beside him. Do you think we should listen to them? Stay here, stay quiet, never leave. Armand's eyes narrowed. He shook his head slowly. No, that's not who we are. They fear us because of what we can become, and that is exactly why we must keep going. Not with war, but with ingenuity, with unity. The stars above seemed closer than ever, like silent witnesses to the choice humanity would make. The aliens had tried to frighten them into chains, but instead they had given them a gift, proof that humanity's greatest weapon was not fire or steel, but imagination. Armand whispered into the quiet night. If they think fear will stop us, they've already forgotten what it means to be human. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled across the mountains. Or perhaps something else moved among the stars. The story was not over. It was only the beginning.